And I just felt him telling me to not be afraid. Like, I just really felt him saying, like, do not fear. Like, I just felt like those scriptures, like, do not fear because I, trust him, like, trust me, he was saying, and not trusting the diagnosis I've received. Right. And he's like, your body is okay. Your baby is okay. And he just gave me this peace that, because I was so afraid, like I was so scared, and I was like, I need my home birth and what's going to happen to me. But I was very prayerful in that time of waiting. So during that time, like I said, I was going and getting tested, and my blood pressure was normal. My urine was normal. It basically came down to, once I contacted them, because I thought, well, can I get a refund? We're not doing this.
Holy Wild Birth is a podcast embracing the reclamation of giving birth, rooted in God's original design, undisturbed.
Here, we share homebirth stories highlighting God's presence as the great midwife, as well as conversations about all aspects of a holistic, spirit-led childbearing year. From the perspectives of myself, traditional midwife Lauren Hall of Rooted in Eden Private Contract Association,
and me, holistic doula and birthkeeper Brooke Collier of Sister Birth.
To choose a holy wild birth journey is to consecrate all your decisions unto the Lord.
And to reclaim creation unadulterated by centuries of human attempts to control and improve upon what God has already called good.
Please remember, birth is not a medical event, but a natural process. We are not your care providers, and this should not be taken as medical advice. Welcome back to Holy Wild Birth. Today, I have with us Nicole Girdman. She is a student in our Hearth Mother journey, but also a mama of 3, carrying her 4th, and she's here today to share her really awesome journey through her last pregnancy, how she navigated some high-risk labels that got placed upon her, and what she did with that, and how she took some responsibility and autonomy and decided the choices before her weren't the only ones. And so she just dove into the Lord and his guidance, and it's just a cool story that I want to invite her to share with you all. So yes, here's Nicole.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for having me. I feel so blessed to be on the Holy Wild Birth podcast. I've been listening for so long, and it's just been so inspiring, and I just appreciate you and Brooke in your ministry. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being a part of it. And, I'm sure that your story will be as encouraging as you have found the podcast, listening to all the other moms that have gone before and shared as well. So thanks for joining us here. All right. Well, where do you want to start today?
Start with just my first birth, and it led me to my home birthing journey. So my first pregnancy, I gave birth in 2019, and at the time, I wasn't quite ready to do a home birth, but I had read this book called Mama Natural, and it's a great book, but it basically teaches about natural childbirth, how to avoid the cascade of interventions, and how to have a healthy pregnancy. So I was a yoga teacher at the time. I was very much into holistic healing and like self-healing. Naturally, I didn't want anything to do with medication or any of that. So basically, I kind of had it in my head that I was going to give birth without any medication. Some people just call me crazy, but like right out the gate, I was just like, I'm not going to do any pain meds.
Absolutely.
And so I did a lot of prep work. I hired 2 doulas. It was like a team of doulas, which was great. They were wonderful. And I was able to give birth it's called a birthing suite. So it's in the hospital, but it's like a birth center. So they only had 4 rooms, and it was a brand new thing, but they called them birthing suites. So it was like no medical equipment, all the birth balls and essential oils, and a twin size bed. So it was just a bed, no monitors, none of that. You had to be low risk, and I was. So I was a candidate for that. So I was able to give birth in a birthing suite. My first birth was really great. Like, I was at a hospital, but It was kind of one of those things where if they needed to bring in the medical equipment, they would, but if they didn't, then they wouldn't. I was in labor for like 2 days. It started like on Friday night, and I stayed at home for most of the labor. That was like my plan, was to stay home. And then on Sunday morning at around 3 a.m., like the contractions were stronger. So I went to the hospital. I was 8 centimeters dilated then. I didn't give birth to her until 12 p.m. So it was like a while. You move locations and your birth kind of, it gets, the environment changes. So then I had to get back in my groove, and it was a great experience. It was a very long and hard labor, but my doulas were there when I got to the hospital, and they were singing over me, and one of them played the guitar, and it was just beautiful. I had a little birth altar at the time. It wasn't Christian. I was very much into the new age. I didn't know Christ at the time, but we had a birth altar set up, and it was very beautiful. I didn't have to have any interventions at all, and I told them not to offer me any, but it was beautiful, and I don't have any regrets. I was grateful. I felt so lucky because I was low risk. Yeah. So that was my first, and so then I didn't get pregnant again until 4 years later, because we actually thought we were done having kids. When I was pregnant with my first, we were not Christians, and we were very selfish. I was married to my husband at the time. I was 30 years old, but we were like, we were just like, we don't want kids yet. We were just like, we can't bring kids into this world. Like, it's a broken world. And, we want to live our lives, very worldly.
And how long
And
ago was that?
that was in 2019. And
2019.
then I got pregnant again with Gracie. I gave birth to her in 2023. So it had been a big gap. At this point, like, we had known the Lord. We had come to Christ in 2021. 2022 is when we came to Christ. So we had thought we were done with kids, but like after we came to the Lord, my husband actually was the one who kind of said, once all this, because it was COVID times and stuff, he's like, once all this COVID stuff like calms down, he's like, we should have more kids. Like, we should have more babies. And he was never like that. And the Lord just really opened his heart to the fact we should be fruitful and multiply. And just this idea of like children being a heritage from him. It was just beautiful. I was just like, who are you? Because I wanted more kids, but he was always just like, no, one and done. But I think the Lord really transformed him with that desire. So we tried, and it didn't take very long, and I got pregnant, and Gracie's pregnancy was fine. It wasn't until I had like a couple of high blood pressure readings just randomly. Like, my blood pressure was fine, but like once at like 23 weeks it was high, and then this one time, I don't know, later in my pregnancy, it was high again. And so they were doing my urine.
About how high, or?
I don't remember the numbers. It was just elevated. We did like a urine sample every time, and they were like, this looks kind of weird. They were concerned about my blood pressure, and then they wanted to do like a blood sample.
Protein and
Yeah. And so they said, we're a little concerned about this. So they wanted me to go in for further testing, because the testing that they have it's limited. So they wanted me to go to the local hospital to get tested. And so they were testing me for preeclampsia, but they didn't say that they were just like, we want you to get a further urine sample and more blood pressure. So testing. So they put the cuff on me and wanted me to sit there for like 2 hours or something, or an hour. I forget. It was a long time, but they wanted to constantly monitor my blood pressure and then just take a urine sample that could give a further data, like analysis of like tell more of the story. So I'm sitting in this room. When I get into the room, I'm by myself. They put the bandage on me, the little thing with my name on it. She starts to cover me with a blanket. They put the fetal monitor on me, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, I'm just here to get like a test, like, and they're just doing routine. And even the nurse who was there, she was like, oh, I'm on autopilot. I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm not staying here. Am I? What's happening? And she's like, no, 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 you're not staying here. We just like to have the wristbands so we can scan you like really quickly. And, yeah, if you don't want the blanket, that's fine. You don't have to be covered. Like, we're just waiting for your results. Cause I did the pee and it had to take like 30 minutes to an hour for them to get the results. So they were like, just stay and wait. And so then I look like to my left and I see this sign of like signs of preeclampsia. And I was like, wait a second, like I'm here for for preeclampsia testing. Like what? Okay. So I'm super nervous. I'm super like, what's going on? Like, am I okay? Cause like, I feel fine. Like I feel fine. I don't have any symptoms. I'm not seeing stars or having dizziness or blurred vision. I'm fine. So I'm just like, I'm very nervous. So my blood pressure is like skyrocketing. I'm like, wait,
Nervous and you don't know what's happening.
yeah. And I'm by myself. And anyway, the nurse, well, not the nurse, the actual OB or whoever it was, the woman who helps, she must have been a midwife or something like that, like who worked at the hospital. She comes in after I sat there, and the blood pressure monitor keeps beeping because my blood pressure is high. I'm just freaking out of like, what is going on? Even when they had the strap on me, they were like, you're having a contraction right now. And I was like, what? Like it was just bizarre. She's like, yeah, you're having a contraction. But it was just really weird. I was just like, I'm having a contraction. She's like, yeah, I can see it on the monitor. I was just like, what is going on? So then she walks in and she's just saying like, okay, so you don't have preeclampsia, but your blood pressure readings are super high right now. And so with the first reading that they had and the second, and this test that we've done, you have gestational hypertension. And so with that, we can go ahead and let's get you scheduled for non-stress tests. Like we're going to go ahead and get that scheduled for the next few weeks. Like we can do it all the way up until you give birth. And, with that, we also encourage an induction at 37 weeks. So we can go ahead and get you signed up.
Just put you in the pipeline,
Yeah, literally. And she's like, and I'm like, but I'm going to have a home birth. I can't have a home birth. And she's like, unfortunately, like when you have this many like readings and you're diagnosed with this, like you can't have a home birth. And I'm just like, what? Like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I was like, okay. And I was like, well, like I want to talk to my midwives about this and the ones that sent me here. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to set an appointment yet. Like, I don't think I want to talk to my midwives first. And so I called them. I told them what happened and they were like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, have them fax the stuff over to us so we can look at it. And, don't set any appointments. It's okay. Like, we'll talk about it. And, it was like snowing, the snowstorm started happening. So I'm like driving home and all this too, like my husband, he didn't want me to go get further testing. My husband and I are very like anti-establishment, anti-hospital. Like we just don't really go to the doctor. Like we don't really need to. Like we definitely try to find ways to heal our own bodies and, believe in holistic medicine and, tinctures and, that kind of thing. So he was like, you don't have to go. Like, it's your choice. Like, just because your midwives are saying you should go doesn't mean that you have to go. And I was like, well, I should trust my midwives because they know what's best for me and they just want to help me. They're not trying to like sabotage anything. They're just concerned and they were genuinely concerned. So I was like, if I don't trust them and go get tested, like what if they don't want to care for me? Or what if they're like, well, if you don't do this, then like you're not trusting us. So then we can't help you, So I was just like, I have to trust my midwives. And so my husband was like, don't go. You don't have to go. It's your choice. And at the time I was just like, well, they're telling me I need to go and they want me to. So I'm going to trust them. And so after I got back, like, I was just like, you were so right. That was so horrible. Like, why did I go? Why did I go? He's just trying to reassure me, like, you'll be okay. And so once I talked to them, they said to me, like, yeah, with this diagnosis, like, you're not a candidate for home birth. So they basically reiterated that. And I was just like really taken back. I was like, is there any way that I could like undo this? Like, if I don't have preeclampsia, they tested like the protein versus the
creatine.
and it was fine. And so I was like, I don't have it. What happened at that time was there was a 2-week period where we didn't really talk. They had a lot of births and they kind of just said like, we can't help you. We're going to refer you out. Like you need to go see another person. Right. So I went and saw a local OB that I had seen in my prior pregnancy that's local in town. And so I went to them. But during this time, they were like, yeah, keep getting monitored, like have your prenatals there and we'll stay in touch. At the time I was like, so I'm not having my home birth, like do I get a refund? Like what's going on? Like, and so that didn't really get talked about. They were like, well, we don't typically do refunds. At this time I was right at the mark of like 36 weeks, and so we had a 2-week period of like, we didn't talk because they had births and things are going on. And I was really praying to God. I was like, what am I going to do? Because they told me like, you're going to go to this OB so that you can go to the hospital because you're going to give birth in the hospital. And I was just like, I didn't want to, but I guess I have to go to the hospital now. It was devastating. I was so heartbroken. And I just didn't know what to do.
Continue to have high blood pressure? Or was it just
No.
that individual stressed out time that you were having high
Yeah.
blood pressure?
It was just that one time. So, yeah, so during that time I went to the OB and they were testing my blood pressure and it was fine. And I, like I said, I was praying to God and I was just like, what am I going to do? And I just felt him telling me to not be afraid. Like I just really felt him saying like, do not fear. Like I just felt like those scriptures, like do not fear because I trust him, like trust me, he was saying, and not trusting the diagnosis I've received, right? And he's like, your body is okay, your baby is okay. And he just gave me this peace that, because I was so afraid, like I was so scared and I was like, I need my home birth and what's going to happen to me? But I was very prayerful in that time of waiting. So during that time, like I said, yeah, I was going and getting tested and my blood pressure was normal. My urine was normal. It basically came down to once I contacted them, because I thought, well, can I get a refund? We're not doing this. And then they actually came back to me and said, you've been seeing this OB, like your numbers are normal. Like the OB that I was seeing, she's like, okay, your urine looks like the urine of a pregnant woman. Your blood pressure is not high. And she's like, so I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Like she was very kind of puzzled, like why I was there for like being high risk. And so that was really comforting that like even the first visit I had with her, she was like, why are you here? Why are you not having a home birth? Like, and so I explained to her the hypertension thing. And she told me that hypertension is diagnosed within like a 12-hour span, like not in,
At least 6 hours. Like
yeah.
some will say between four, but you have to have a high reading once, and then 4 to 6 hours later, if you have another high reading, then we should start looking at it and see, is this continuing? And you have a pattern happening versus a one time, okay, you've been taking my blood pressure and stressing me out and it's skyrocketing because I'm stressed and scared. Well, that's what the heart does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can't diagnose off of one set appointment like that, like they did to you.
Right.
So it sounds like you had someone who actually recognized that.
Hmm.
That's what I was sitting over here going, just that one time? Like, okay.
I know. Well, like I said, on my chart, it had 2 other ones. So it was like those 2 plus this one, I guess. But then the OB that I,
Sure, the one that your midwife had, and then you went in.
yeah.
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 Okay.
So then the OB was like, it's not hypertension unless it's that time frame. She's like, come back next week. If it's normal, like you're fine. But then, so I talked to my midwives when we finally reconnected, and they were like, if you can get the OB, the person that you're seeing, to write a note in your chart that you are a candidate for home birth, they were like, we can still work with you, because I guess that diagnosis wasn't like completely accurate. And I was just so thankful. Like I was praising God, because I was like, I thought our conversation was going to be like, how do I get some money back here? I'm not going to get my home birth, like, or are you going to come with me to the hospital? Like what that conversation was going to be. But they were like, no, just get that written. Just ask her, can you write a note in my chart that I'm a home birth candidate? And so I asked her and she was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're definitely a candidate for home birth. And I was just like, thank you, Jesus. Like it was wonderful. So all that happened, but it ended up being fine. And I really learned how to trust God in that. And um, yeah, the home birth was fine. The labor was much shorter. It was about 6 hours. And the midwives arrived just in time, like right as they got here. Like I felt the urge to push. So I pushed, like with my first, it took me like 2 hours to push. And then with this baby, it was like 3 pushes. But then in the hospital, they had me on my back, which I'm learning a lot in my birthkeeper training. It limits the pelvis.
Yeah.
it restricts it. And I pushed for 2 hours. But when I gave birth to Grace, I was standing up in a squatting position, and it was like, whoop, like, just like she came right out with like 3 pushes, and it was so beautiful. Like I could feel her coming out. I could like feel the pushes. I could feel her head, which I couldn't feel in my first birth. And so every push, I remember like exclaiming to God, yes, yes, Jesus, yes, because I could like feel myself spreading. I could feel myself opening up, and she came out so quickly. And yeah, everything was great. Everything about the birth was wonderful, and I had a faster labor, and yeah, it was perfect. The midwives were great, and I had my successful home birth, my first one, and I was so excited. It was just beautiful. I got to like have my baby and lay in my bed, and it was just wild, like just squatting over. I was literally squatting over my bed next to my closet and just gave birth to my baby. It was so
So
it was
beautiful, so normal and natural, and
yeah,
healthy.
it was wonderful. I just loved it. It was like my contractions started, and they told me to rest, but then I couldn't rest, and it just progressed. And then they talked to me on the phone, they could hear me, and they were like, "Oh, we're coming over," but it took them like an hour. And so when they got there, they just kind of invited me to push. They were like, "If you feel like you want to push, like go ahead." And I was like, "I do. Like I really do." So they actually kind of it encouraged me to like do that. Like I knew I felt something when just that like little invitation from them was like, yeah, yeah, I do want to do that. So, so yeah, that was fine, but very, very nerve wracking in the moments that leading up to that.
Yeah, quite the journey to get to that, and yet a testimony of just waiting on the Lord to make that path for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, such a blessing. I hear so much favor in the way that, like, even though you almost got like fast tracked to this place of intervention, like, what a blessing to have such a very open minded OB that could kind of catch you and be like, this diagnosis is not accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's such a unique blessing and a unique story that you don't normally hear. Um,
Mm-hmm. It was a
so,
blessing.
what a
I
hand
think
of God.
Yeah, like thankfully all my readings were normal, right? Like everything she saw was just like I said, she's like, "Okay, you're just pregnant
Right.
and like your blood pressure is good." Like it was a blessing because God, like he told me to just be patient and just not be afraid. And like right when I got there, she was just like, "You're fine. You're fine." I'm like, "I
Yeah, she cared about you as a human who wanted what you wanted as a
yeah.
mother and where you wanted to birth instead of just seeing you as like business. She could have
Yeah.
just been like, I have the power to tell you you can't have a home birth with these, regulated midwives. And so
Yeah.
she actually saw you, and that's a beautiful thing that she is like, yep, you're healthy, and I will actually give you what she could give you in that. Because I hear too many times where it's like, well, you could go back to, and we'll just, I mean, it's a business, so she didn't have to give you that if she
Mhm.
wanted to. So
Exactly.
just a really good doctor that actually gave you the kind of care that you needed in that moment.
Yeah, yeah, and just like when she said like you're fine, I'm like, yeah, I know I'm fine, right? I'm fine. And like this idea of when your care provider is like something's going wrong and you're like, is it? You're like, what? What's going wrong? And they're like, well, your urine and this. And like I totally get that like so many women like get preeclampsia and they are
Right.
not tracked and they're not monitored and it's like not good because they told me like you could be fine and then you won't be fine like if you have preeclampsia.
Right. Yeah, we should check
So,
it out if there's signs and symptoms.
yeah,
It's a
but
continual thing, not just
yeah,
you had ketones one time.
yeah, and
Did you
like
were you eating that day?
yeah, I know. And so it's just this idea too of like and I've been hearing this too in the birth world that like women like don't know their own bodies, right? Like we wait for the midwife or the OB to tell us how we should feel. And so it was very much that where I'm like I feel okay. So like what's like you're so confused when they're like this is happening and you're actually sick. I'm like am I sick? Like I don't feel sick. I feel fine. So I think this idea that we trust our care providers so much that we forget to take like responsibility for our own pregnancy. And I realized how much I had relied on them in that pregnancy and even the one before. But you really rely on the midwife, the doctor, right? You really rely on them to tell you, like, is my blood pressure okay? Am I okay? Is my baby okay?
As if
And
those things are the only factors to consider.
right. Yeah. And so I think with home birth, I think it was just um like I said, I've never experienced a hospital birth that was traumatic. So but I didn't want to be monitored. I didn't want to be I didn't want to have an IV. I wanted to be able to move, you know. So I don't know. It wasn't like, I mean, again, I am kind of anti-hospital, but I don't know. I just wanted to be at home. It's just, I think you guys have talked about it in the podcast that just like it's a certain woman. Like, God just puts that on your heart where you're like, I can give birth at home. Like, and that's what I prefer. I think it's just something God puts on us. And I think there's a yearning for the way the things used to be, I think.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, so then with my third, I had the same midwives and everything was going great. And then dun dun dun, 36 weeks again.
Oh no.
They had, what was it this time? It was glucose this time. It wasn't my blood pressure. My blood pressure was fine. I was not doing urine samples throughout my pregnancy. I had kind of become jaded and I was like, I don't really know that, urine samples are necessary. I think that they do that just to kind of scare you. And so I just didn't do them. And so it was a team of midwives. And so I would see one or the other. And like they would track in my chart that I didn't do a urine sample, but one midwife or the other, she like didn't realize that I was not giving samples. And I'm like, well, you guys didn't ask for one, so I just haven't been doing them. And they were like, oh, well, we definitely need some urine samples. Like it had been like, I was just like, well, I just didn't feel like doing them. I didn't think they were necessary. So yeah, I did a urine sample and they found I spilled glucose in my urine. And then they were like, well, what'd you eat today? And I think I had like a bagel, like some carby food. Like I didn't really have a lot of protein. And I told them, so they were just like, well, let's track your food. Let's start tracking your food and you need to change your diet a little bit. So I tracked my food and they were like, okay, yeah, cut out the hot Cheetos, like cut out the donuts, cut out.
Yeah.
And, I was working out during my pregnancy. Like all my pregnancies, I work out. I focus on my nutrition. Like I'm a ex nutrition coach, personal trainer. So like I love working out and especially in pregnancy, I love prenatal workouts. I'm about that life. So I was already working out. I was already doing things, but essentially what had happened was the glucose issue was a concern to them
Yeah.
and they wanted me to take the glucose test again because the first time they did it at the beginning, that first time, I forget, was it 28 weeks or something?
Sure.
They did like
It's
a
just
just a
normal drain type thing, and then your blood taking your blood, or are you talking about when you spilled blood or glucose? I can't talk. Are you talking about when you spilled glucose in your urine, or did you actually do a glucose screening test?
I did a glucose screening test
Okay.
and I think it's around 28 weeks. I'm about to
Yeah,
do
that would
another
be
one.
around about
Yeah.
when you would do it is 28 weeks.
And I think they just took my blood with that one
Yeah.
and it was normal. And so they were fine with the blood test. They were like, you don't have to do anything else. It's fine. But then with me spilling glucose in my
Spilling
urine,
glucose in urine is a pretty like that's not
mhm,
a normal thing. So that's a pretty big red flag for sure.
yeah. Yep. So at that point, they wanted me to do an actual glucose tolerance test with the drink. And like, I didn't want to do it, but they wanted me to
Okay,
actually
so you
do.
didn't do a tolerance test the first time. You just did like a finger prick, right? Like a fasting kind of situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So they scheduled me with a local like LabCorp thing, like I just went to a local doctor and drank the drink. Anyway, I failed the first test. So then I had to do the 3 hour test and like because they do the 1 hour test and then if you fail that, then you do the 3 hour one. So then the 3 hour one, I failed. I failed. I say I failed. I didn't fail, but you know what I mean? I did not pass. The numbers were high. So boom, I'm diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And so that is not reversible at all. I even asked them, like, can I just change my diet? Can we just monitor my blood sugar? And they were like, no, like per their
Per the
regulation.
regulations, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
like in reality, in your body, yes. In their regulations, they won't turn it around.
So this one was a hard and fast no. This was a no, 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 can't, like, you need to see, how did they put it? More advanced care.
Yeah.
And so once again, I'm like, no, no, Lord, why? Like, I'm devastated. But they were, in our appointment, I was just bawling. I was in tears. She held me, like, she was so sweet. She was so loving, and just like, she was feeling the pain with me. She was just like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you just need more advanced care at this point. And, we want to take care of you. We don't want anything to happen to you or your baby. This is something we need to really look at seriously. So we're going to refer you to, a good doctor, a good maternal fetal medicine doctor, and we're going to be in touch. And so anyway, they were like, let's go get an ultrasound, and let's see how we can get you into your local hospital for birth. Because like at that late in pregnancy, when you have to transfer, you have to be through an OB. So like, or you can just go to the hospital. But I wanted to get into an OB so that I could for sure deliver at this hospital by my house. But I had not done any ultrasounds up until this point. So I had to do an ultrasound that I did not want to do. But they just wanted to check on the size of baby and make sure he was okay. And so we went, got the ultrasound. It was fine. He was normal. The maternal fetal medicine doctor was like, yeah, the baby's fine. He's normal. But they wanted me to go in. It was actually helpful. They had gestational diabetes resources. So they gave me like what your numbers should be, like how to eat well. Like they gave me a little pamphlet. They actually referred me to someone who I could chat with like weekly, like in a little, like doctor chat, like on your email. And she would give me tips on how to eat well, how to help my fasting numbers. And so I had resources, and I learned a lot about like what I should be eating. And I had to track my blood sugar every meal. And, it was definitely a stressful time because I was at the end of my pregnancy, I had to change my diet. And then I was trying to figure all this stuff out about where I was going to deliver. And this time my midwives were completely out. And so, so that was helpful to know my baby was a normal size, and like, I was okay. I was feeling okay. I'm just going to do better with my diet, and we'll see how it goes. So then I started researching gestational diabetes. Like, what are the risks of gestational diabetes? What happens when you deliver with GD at home? I came across a few different podcasts, a few different articles. I had reached out to a couple mom groups of like, has anyone given birth with gestational diabetes at home? Just trying to like, and I learned the risks. I learned like baby could be too big, blood sugar issues with baby when they come out, like jaundice, blood sugar issues with mom, just like stillbirth. I heard like all the things, and I was just like, okay. But I was like, what if I maintain my blood sugar though? Like, can I make this work? Like, if my
Right.
blood sugar is
Exactly.
normal, can I make this work? And so I had heard from a couple moms that were like, I gave birth to my baby with gestational diabetes twice, or, I had a home birth with a midwife. They were in a different state. So like their midwives could still attend their birth. I forget where they were from, but in our state, in Colorado, like you can't, but in other states, rules are different. So I gave birth to my baby just fine. And so those women, like the two women who spoke out, like gave me so much hope. And I was like, okay, like, and so I was asking God, my husband was obviously like, no, we're staying home. Like, we're staying home. Right. And I was like, and I almost went to the hospital because my midwives were like, this is what you need to do. And we'll be there, but like, we won't be able to do anything, but we'll be there. Right. And so, but like, this is what you need to do to be safe. Right. So my husband is like, what if we just give birth to this baby at home? Like, what if we just stay home? And I'm just thinking, like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, how do we do this? I don't know. And he's just like, I feel like God is saying, like, you don't need to be in the hospital. Like, I just feel that. And I feel that strongly. And I'm like, I feel that too, but I don't know how I'm going to do this without midwives. Like, how am I going to have my baby at home without midwives? And so I I talked to my midwives to kind of get a picture of like, what is it going to be like when I go to the hospital? Because I really wanted to know. Like, I'm high risk now. So can you just tell me, like, can I labor at home? Like, can I stay at home as long as possible? And then when I get there, like, do I need to be monitored? And they were like, so yeah, like as soon as you go into labor, you're want to go and get checked in because they need to monitor you. They need to check your blood sugar. They need to check baby. You can ask them for intermittent fetal monitoring, but they're probably going to want to monitor you a lot. They're definitely going to want to hook you up to an IV just in case, So yeah, I would definitely go there as soon as you go into labor. And so yeah, with that said, like you'll definitely want to find a pediatrician so that after that they can monitor your baby. They need to heel prick baby 3 times post birth. Like and they're like, so you're going to want to have a pediatrician on file because the pediatrician has to release your baby once they have verified that the blood testing is good and they're not jaundice. And so yeah, so she's telling me all the things where I'm like, okay. So I'm like, so I have to ask them to not monitor me. They may or may not do that. I'm definitely going to be hooked up to an IV. I probably won't be able to move. Like, I was just like, okay. And so I said, well, and then they were like on the way to an appointment. Midwives are always going to a birth or going to something. So they were like, I gotta let you go, but let's talk. I'll call you back. And so I was like, okay. And so I'm like, oh my Lord. I was just like, this is so bad. I'm like, now I'm high risk and now I'm going to be like strapped to a bed and then the whole like after thing, like the whole like you have to stay because when my husband, our plan was like, let's go and have this baby and then let's leave. Like he literally said, like, let's go have the baby then if that's what we need to do, but we're going to leave as soon as we're done. But you can't do that. You can't just leave. Most of the time, I mean, I don't know.
Sign out AMA, but yeah.
Exactly. Which again, it can be risky and they can like call CPS or I don't even know. Like I've heard stories, but like you have to sign, against medical advice.
Yeah.
And so
As long
that
as
was
the
his.
baby is fine, then you can do it. Like if there's actual evidence to show that the baby is not doing well, then there can be repercussions around trying to take your child out. But you as an adult can always sign out AMA.
Yeah.
And if your child is not in any life saving, like needing any life saving measures, you can sign your child out AMA. It's only when there's like your child's hooked up to like a ventilator or something.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I'm gonna take my kid home, and they're like, that's when
Okay.
we start having problems. But
Yeah.
I think most of it is just fear mongering to tell you that you can't sign out AMA because they don't want you to do that, but you can sign out AMA.
Right. But for moms, right? Like if we just want to go home, we just want to go home and we don't want to like have to deal with the rigmarole of like do this, to do that. So yeah, just the post-birth stuff she told me, the during labor stuff she told me, I was just like, I don't know. And so as I was listening to podcasts, like I found the Freebirth Society and one of their podcasts is one that actually inspired me to stay at home because they talked about gestational diabetes and how there's a lot of misunderstandings about it and that it's not something to really be concerned about. And they kind of explained why,
Yes
but
and no.
right. And they explained different situations, but when I found them, I had just heard a lot of stories. Like I heard that podcast, and then I just heard about women like taking autonomy of their birth, right? And just like having these beautiful births at home with no one besides them and their husband or their babies or, or a trusted friend. And so when I found that, I was like inspired. I was like, okay, I was like, I could do this. I could have this baby at home by myself. I mean, I know I need to do some research, which I did. I started researching like hemorrhage and I started researching what to do with the baby as soon as they're born. And that breast milk will help babies' blood sugar to be regulated. So get them on the breast. And
Yeah.
I knew my baby was a decent size and I knew, and regardless, I had heard stories, if your baby's big, you're going to push your baby out. Like your baby is still going to come out. I mean, depending, there could be dystocias and things of that
There's
nature,
lots of
but
nuance here, but yes.
right. So anyway, I was finding just these little tidbits of stories. And so I was like, well, maybe I could, but I was still very afraid to give birth by myself. Like I heard these really empowering stories of women, but I was afraid to birth at home by myself. I didn't want to birth at home by myself. So basically I decided, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and just stay home and see what happens. Like I'm just going to stay home. And anyway, so I tell my midwives this. I was like, is there any way that you could attend my birth? Like, just like after, like say I give birth to my baby, like, could you just come after and check baby? And they were like, no, like we can't do that. And I said, well, I'm like, I'm not comfortable going to the hospital. That's not what I want to do. And I'm considering a free birth, but everything that you described about the hospital, like I'm sorry, like that's not going to work for me. And so when I said free birth, they were like, yeah, we need to end care. We're ending care with you now. Like it just,
Goodness.
yeah.
Which they had already ended care, hadn't they?
Well, they were still going to be coming to my birth at the hospital. So
Oh,
they were
gotcha.
still, but they said they were totally, they could not even entertain that if I was going to try to do a free birth.
So they, at the point that you said free birth, they were like, we won't even be your doula at a hospital birth.
Mm-hmm.
We're cutting ties. So that immediately
Yeah.
sparked some fear in them
Yes.
around that.
It.
Now, I want to back up to just a little bit because I believe you told me this in like before we were recording, but at this point, am I correct in recalling that you already had your levels regulated? Like you had taken control
Yes.
of your diet, you weren't having high blood sugar, you weren't actually having blood sugar problems at this point. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was testing it every week. Again, I was like 37 weeks at this point. So I was testing it daily. I mean, I was testing it every day. And sometimes it would be high based on what I ate, so I would change it. But like I was keeping my levels in check.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So to jump in there, you sharing, your levels are normal. You're looking at free birth. They were like, okay, we're cutting contact. And then what?
Mhm.
Where did you go from there?
So from there, I was devastated and I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I knew a friend of mine had just had her baby and she was like, I know a really good midwife, like you should hit her up, and just see. And so yeah, I found someone who believes that women's bodies should not be regulated, and I asked for her support and she showed up for me. And so because
Good.
when I talked to her, she was like, you know what, you sound really sure in what you want and what you need. And, you sound confident in your ability to home birth and you're taking care of your blood sugar. And she was like, so yeah, yeah, I'll be there. And
Yeah.
so that was an answered prayer. I was praising God because I was like, Lord, please, like, I just need somebody. I need someone
You need a
to,
midwife who actually walks with women instead of
exactly.
the regulation. Yeah.
Exactly. And and my prior midwives were just so sweet. Like I love them, and it was hard because I
Not that they're
didn't
bad
want to,
people.
yeah, I didn't want to feel like they abandoned me or like they were bad people. But at the end of the day, like it hurt a lot that they could not care for me, and I thought they were there for me and they just couldn't be because of the regulations. Um so I hooked up with her. So when she decided to attend me, I was like, okay, we're on. Like, we're on. This home birth is happening. I'm good to go. I don't have to free birth now. Like, I was so excited. So when she agreed to attend me, I was just so thankful to the Lord. I was just like praising God because during all of this, I knew He was leading me to stay home. And it was just one of those things where it's like, I'll do it. And like, I'll just do it with Ben. This was my third baby, so I was like, I kind of already know what I'm doing. Like, I think and like I said, I was prepping, right? I was prepping for like a birth emergency. I was doing the research of like what could happen and how to handle it. Like I was looking up shoulder dystocia, I was looking up all the things. And so I felt prepared, but I was like, it would just help me, Lord, if like someone could be here that I could
Yeah.
trust.
Because you didn't want to be alone.
No, no. And so it was all good. At 37 weeks, we had like two prenatals. It was like one prenatal and a home visit. And she was just wonderful. And so the funniest part of this entire story is that Mason came so fast. He came within an hour of my contraction starting. And so she was not even there when he was born.
So you had free birth anyway.
I really did. God, and that was such a God wink. It was such a God thing where He was like, you could birth this baby by yourself, and you did. When I pushed him out, I told my husband, hand him to me, and he did. And I picked him up. We just both laughed. We were just like, oh my gosh, we're like, that just happened. It was just so beautiful. It was crazy though, because my husband and I both did not know that it was time for me to push. Like, because I had put on a breast pump and to get things going, because my water broke earlier in the day and nothing was happening. Like my water broke and I'd have like one contraction and then nothing would happen. So I put on the breast pump earlier in the day. I did the mile circuit, I was doing things, nothing was happening. So then at night, she told me to do the breast pump again. And when I turned it on, like contractions picked up. It was at 10 p.m. Did it for 30 minutes. And then he was born at 11 p.m. Like it was insane. It was insane. And so none of the GD things even became an issue at all. Like he came so quickly. And I ended up having an unassisted birth, like unplanned. And then, she comes to the door and Ben just opens the door and he's like, "You missed it." And she said, she always laughs because he just had the biggest smile on his face. And she came and tended to us, checked baby. She drew me a bath. Like it was just awesome. It was just so awesome to have her there, like post birth. And I was very shaky afterward because it happened so fast. Like my body was trembling and she was like, "Let the shakes happen." Like, cause I kept trying to stop the shakes. I'm like, "Why am I shaking?" She's like, "Your body is trying to catch up with what just happened." So she was like,
adrenaline and hormone dump.
yeah. So she like put me in the bath and she was like, "Kind of shake it out, like kind of move your body." Like she's like, "That's a good thing. Don't try to stop the shakes." She's like, you went through a lot. You just went through a lot." And so it was just so funny how I did the things I prepped, right, to like make sure I was like being safe. And then it was like, "Yep, you can deliver your baby. Just you and your husband and the Lord. There you go."
Yeah, love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, and
So,
the juxtaposition too of, there's just so much of this walking with these different providers and the ones that really were serving you. Even the OB in the first one who really
mhm,
showed up and served you where you were at, and this other midwife who really showed up and served you, and then also these other individuals that were really, they wanted to serve you and they were good people, but
mhm.
they weren't actually serving, they were serving regulation. I mean, if you
Yeah.
really want to be straightforward about it, they had to serve their regulation.
Mhm.
And so I say that to like, how did that impact you? Like having these massively different types of care in hospital and in midwifery, kind of the standard mainstream OB, and then this other OB that showed up in a part of your story, and then these two
Mhm.
different kinds of midwives that on paper were pretty much the same, but yet showed up very differently for you. Like, do you want to say anything to that, or?
Yeah, I think it just showed, well, for me, like after that happened, it really put it on my heart to serve other women. So that for sure. Like I had never had a desire to be a birth worker until I went through that. Well, both things, right? Like with Gracie, like I didn't have the desire then. But then with Mason, realizing that the regulation that's put on midwives is harmful, in many different ways. And I started hearing kind of in the Freebirth Society podcast, just like women showing up for women and like this idea that like women would attend women, in birth for centuries. And it was, your aunt or your mom or, a trusted sister. And so that really resonated with me. And I also understand the importance of having a birth servant that knows emergencies and that understands clinical things, and that, you can't just attend someone's birth and you have no knowledge of birth, right? Like you have no knowledge of what could go wrong or what could transpire. You can't just be a fly on the wall when someone's hemorrhaging or worse or whatever it is. Like you have to have some understanding or have
Skill. Yeah.
like someone in the room with you who does, right? Like so I kind of went from this like anyone can attend a birth to like, well, you still want to have knowledge. You still want to be knowledgeable and like know your role. If you're going to attend a birth, like know what your limits of your expertise are and be responsible to that woman, right? Like I've learned a lot. But that's what it really kind of showed me, is that the regulations and the licensure and things of that nature, like don't really make you a professional. Like they don't make you a professional birth attendant. They give you the credentials, that they say that you're ready to attend a birth, but I don't know that that is like the hallmark or like that means you're qualified. And I'm very like anti-establishment myself. Just the idea that you can't attend certain women based on certain licensing requirements. It just, I don't know. I want to be able to attend any woman. And of course, there would be prerequisites to that, right? Like we want to make sure she's eating right, that she's taking care of her body, that she is taking responsibility for her pregnancy and her baby. So it's not for everyone, but I just felt like this huge calling on my heart after that. Like I was literally like 2 months postpartum with Mason, and I was like, I need to be attending births. Like I need to be in the birth space with women. Again, what I said earlier is like, you start to put your trust in your provider, and then you don't trust your own body, and you don't know how to like know what your body is feeling, know what your baby is doing, and trusting that, and trusting God and asking God as the great midwife, like, what am I supposed to do? What's my next step with this pregnancy? Like, and I feel like I was so detached, even when I was like holistic and I was like all natural, like I didn't even know my own body. I was like waiting for the OB to tell me what my body should be feeling. And there's so much to know in pregnancy. So like I get it that like if you're a new mom, like there is a lot to know. And so you're like, is this normal? But
Right. It's
the
okay to be in community and lean on other people, but it's not a complete outsourcing of that, right? It should be first the Lord and
yeah.
you in partnership with him and in your marriage, like making those decisions internally. And then going, okay, seek wise counsel, seek community, see if and when your desire is for that, but it's not. I think there's too many people who, when they are feeling called to a midwife or an OB, they're just trying to outsource all their decision making
Yeah.
versus leaning on them as wise counsel, but then
Mm-hmm.
still being responsible for the final decision and the final choices and taking care of themselves in fullness, right? Body, mind, soul,
Mm-hmm.
spirit. Like you are your main prenatal care provider because you're the one putting the food in your mouth. You're the one sleeping. You're the one moving your body. You are the one giving yourself the care or not giving yourself the care. But, and that may lead you to free birth and that may lead you to wild pregnancy and that may lead you to a midwife or a birthkeeper
Mm-hmm.
or an OB or whatever. But even if you are fully going, you know what, God is leading me to have a hospital birth with the OB down the street that is incredibly mainstream. That doesn't mean that you have to outsource every single decision. It's
Mm-hmm.
just meaning this is where you feel led to do. This is where you feel like this is what your story is leading you to right now. You still get to make the final decisions, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's
Yes.
this nuance that people don't seem to be able to do. Like you can still be the final you should still be the final decision
Mm-hmm.
maker, whether you have an OB midwife or you are in a wild pregnancy situation. Like it doesn't matter. It still should land on you and you and your decision being submitted unto the Lord. Here,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I love about my midwife. I'm using her for this pregnancy, is that she like gives information, but she wants me to pray about it and she wants me to make that final decision. And she kind of said too, because I was thinking of doing my own prenatal care with this pregnancy. I was thinking like, oh, I won't really go see you that much. I'll just see you like maybe once every other month, and I'll test my own urine and I'll check my own blood pressure. You know what I mean? I had this idea that I was going to do my own prenatal care for this pregnancy. And she's like, yeah, you can do that, but you also need support. Like, you need support as a pregnant woman.
Yes.
And she's like, and it's not bad for you to come to me for prenatal care. Like, she's like, if you want to do that on your own, that's great. She's like, but I'm also here as a resource. And she kind of put that into perspective of like, sure, you can do all your own prenatal care and you don't really need a midwife for that. But
You
she's
don't
like,
have to either.
right. Like she said, if you don't have to do that, if you don't have to take your own urine and do these things, like just come here, And so it was also that other dynamic of me really wanting to take more responsibility for my pregnancy, so much so that I'm like, well, the wild pregnancy idea. And I was like, well, I don't really need her. And I'm like, actually, I do. Like, I do need a midwife, and I do. And the prenatal care that she's given me has been so beautiful. And it's wonderful. And, we've been dealing with some things. I've had a little bit of elevated blood pressure things going on. So everything's fine, but I've been really diligent about my diet and my nutrition again, and like hearing all the advice from Embrace Birth Journey. I get to dive into that and how to be proactive when these situations come up with high blood pressure. And I'm working out and doing all these things, but she's been a great support for me in that. So if you want to do all those things on your own, you can, but like it is important to have that support from a midwife. And I think and it's really been put on my heart to be a midwife. That's my aspiration, is to become a midwife so that I can handle emergencies and I can handle those things. And that was just the calling that God put on my heart, was to help women birth at home. There's so many women who want to birth at home, but there's such a stigma against it. Such a low percentage of people in our country give birth at home. And so you just get this crazy look when you tell people I've given birth at home twice. They're like, oh, okay, why? Like, so he really said to me, he put this vision on my heart of like, you're going to help women in the home. You're going to help women so that when they want to have a home birth, they do it safely with education and empowerment. Like, that they would know what they're doing and they would be confident, and that they would know how to trust God in that. And so when I was looking for, like, 'cause I found Holy Wild Birth after Mason, after my third pregnancy, because I was listening to Freebirth Society, and I was like, Lord, I like all of this autonomous birth. I like, they're my vibe, and I love everything that they're talking about, but it's not centered in Christ. Like, there's too much New Age speak, there's too much universe and goddess speak, which I used to do that. I came from the New Age, and I'm like, I know all of that, and that's not honoring to you, Lord. So I was like, please, is there like unassisted birth Christian community? and found you guys on Facebook somewhere, and it was like an answered prayer. And then I heard the Way of the Hearth Mother episode, and I was just like, it fell on me like, oh my gosh, like I am a Hearth Mother. I want to be a Hearth Mother. And like, it was just such an answered prayer to find this ministry and this holy work that you guys are doing. So yeah, when I heard that you guys do birthkeeper training and everything, like, everything aligned. It was just so beautiful how everything aligned. My midwife does train doulas, so I did a doula training with her and a postpartum doula training with her. Like I said, I was like 4 months postpartum, taking my baby into she said, you're going to be at this training. You're supposed to be here. And so it was after that like I really wanted to join Hearth Mother Journey like last fall. Or last spring or something, and I just couldn't. It just wasn't in the cards. But when the fall, or sorry, no, it was last fall, and then the spring cohort is when I joined. But I was like, I just praying about it, and God just kept putting just sign after sign of like, this is where you need to be. And I knew it was, because like there was a couple other trainings that I saw, but they were not centered in Christ. They were great. They had some midwifery stuff. They had like, undisturbed birth things and physiological birth things, but I was like, this is the one. And like, just like going through the way of the Hearth Mother, like now thinking, as I've gone through it, because I wish I would have had it with my previous pregnancies, but now like going through it with this pregnancy, just waiting on the Lord, getting quiet, and praying, worshiping him, first and foremost before engaging the body of Christ, because I go to people all the time for advice before I go to the Lord, and, just asking questions, getting curious, before. And I could see that I was doing some of those steps in those previous things. But yeah, just that Hearth Mother poem is so beautiful. I hope everyone has heard that episode, because it's so beautiful. But like, it's just holy work. And so there were just too many signs, but it was such a blessing. And just being pregnant now and getting to learn the Hearth Mother, the way of the Hearth Mother, and how to walk with women in pregnancy and being pregnant. It's like God did it, like God was like, here you go. Because I was planning to wait till my baby was like 2 to get pregnant.
Sure.
And then I got pregnant because God was like, no, you're ready now. So
Something else for you. I have other
he's
plans.
like, I know you want to go attend births, but not yet. And that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's sweet. So what are your plans for this baby and this birth?
So since I've been studying Embrace Birth Journey, like I haven't had the chance to document my birth. Both births happened really quickly and no one was here when they happened. Like my sister was supposed to be at my second birth and at my third birth, but it just happened so quickly that they missed it. So I do plan to have a doula with my midwife. One of my very best friends is going to be my doula, and we're very much in the same boat. She just had her son like a month before me, so our sons are close in age, but she wants to attend births, but we're in our childbearing year with 3 babies, and so she's attended a couple births, but I would be her first home birth that she's attended. So I'm really excited to have a doula again, because the last 2 births I didn't have a doula. I didn't think I needed one, but now with all this knowledge I have, I'm like, I do need a doula. Like, it would be so nice to have a doula.
I just want a doula. Like,
Yeah, so I'm planning to like document it and have it be more aesthetic. As shallow as that sounds,
beautiful environment. You want a beautiful environment. That's okay.
I do. I do. I've been thinking about, my placenta bowl and, the lights in my room and having it dim and dark. And we don't know the gender of this baby, which is going to be fun. Like every time we've had a baby, we've always found out. So we don't know. So when the baby is born is when we'll find out. I plan to catch my own baby, which I've never done. So I'm going to practice, or not practice, but like visualize and like to be on my knees or be in a position where I can catch baby. And I'm just really trying to focus on surrendering to when I have the contractions to not tense up. I'm really trying to focus on like releasing, and I already know about surrendering and letting go and things, but like I feel like I tense up and I like scream and moan and like, oh, this is really hard, instead of just letting it go through me.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm
And
really talking to my doula and my midwife about how to surrender and allow, and that's what I'm trying to practice in different ways. If I'm exercising or doing something that kind of hurts, like how can I release and not like be like, ugh, but like just kind of okay. So, and like I said, I'm really focused on my nutrition. I'm really being diligent about exercising. I'm just trying to take good care of myself. They just did my blood work and it looks really good, even though my blood pressure's been a little elevated. So we're just working on my diet and my hydration, but my blood work looks great. So it's a plus. And but yeah, that's kind of what I'm envisioning for the baby so far. Kind
love
of.
that. Love that. Well, maybe we'll have you back on to share this birth story, and we'll have the part two in a couple months.
Oh my gosh, I know, baby number 4. I'm just so tripped out by that. I'm literally like, only God can. So I'm really excited to see what the Lord is going to do in this birth.
Yeah, me
So
too.
yeah, I'd love to give you an update when it all happens.
Yes, I definitely want to hear it, which I'm sure we will with you being.
Hmm.
When are you due while you're still in NHJ?
Yeah, yeah. Our commissioning ceremony, I believe, is in April, or yeah.
Yeah.
So, yep, I will be newly postpartum when I
Okay.
graduate.
It'll be right in the spring.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that'll be fun.
Mhm.
Maybe get a head start on your projects now.
I am. I am. I actually just hosted my first birth circle. I
How
meant
did
to
you
tell you in Brooke.
go?
Um, it took a few tries, but it happened this weekend and it was a blessing. So I can't
Yay!
wait to share that more with you, but it's
Love
working.
to hear that. Awesome. Well, on that note, is there anything that you would want to share if anybody's interested in connecting with you in your area? How would they find you?
Yeah, so I am on Facebook
Okay.
under my name, Nicole Gerdeman, and you can connect with me there. And I also have a website that you can that'll be linked. And I am a doula. I'm a birth keeper, and I am a midwife's assistant as well. So those are the ways in which I serve. I'm also a postpartum doula. I'm probably not going to be doing too much more birth work up until like at January. I'll probably
Sure.
stop, but I'm open to talking to women about August, September, when I'm postpartum.
Yeah. Is the birth circles a public offering?
Yes, yes, they're once a month. Yep, and so it's open to the public. So any woman who is pregnant or postpartum or just loves birth is welcome to to the
Wonderful. We'll
birth
put those
circles.
links in the show notes for anyone who's in your area that may want to reach out. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, again, I'm so excited for this story unfolding, and just thank you for sharing your journey and, from hospital to home birth to free birth or accidental free birth, and then to just really valuing midwifery care, but in a totally different vantage point. It's just a kind of a cool thing to hear your whole winding journey there. So, yeah, thanks for being here. Is there any last final thoughts that you want to leave our listeners with?
Nope, I'm just thankful to be here. So I just appreciate you, and it's been a blessing learning alongside you and Brooke. So thank you.
Well, it's been a blessing to have you in our cohorts and to hear your stories here today. All right. Well, thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Holy Wild Birth. We hope that you were genuinely encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. If you're loving what you hear, please make sure that you share it. Leave reviews. That helps other mamas find this content as well. And don't forget to read the show notes, okay? Because that's where you can find our email address if you want to reach out to us and start a conversation. It's also where you'll find free offerings as well as invitations to work with me and or Lauren. We can't wait to get to know you. See you next week.